Imagine a teenager lying on a grassy field gazing into the night sky, and as he stares up at the stars, he thinks to himself, look at how enormous the universe is. The sky just expands endlessly. It must go on forever. And after sitting with that thought for a few minutes, he becomes uncomfortable. How can anything go on forever? Everything must stop eventually. But after a few moments of relaxation, his thoughts intrude again. But how can the universe stop? What exists on the other side when the universe ends? It must go on forever. And this inner dialogue continues as he struggles to contemplate the infinite within his finite mind. This struggle is not a childish one, because it's a challenge that confronts any finite being who tries to connect to the infinite. Younger children, however, they don't face this struggle. They're dreamers. They're living in a world of fantasy where anything is possible. I mean, just ask a group of children what they want to be when they grow up, and you'll get some of the most fantastic, unrealistic responses imaginable. I'm going to be an astronaut fireman who saves people on the moon, or I'm going to become a great tzaddik and learn how to speak every language so that I can teach Torah to everyone. Children live within the infinite, the realm of endless possibility. However, as we grow up, we begin to experience the struggle of reality, where our notions of the infinite start to be challenged. We then face the question, how do we as physical and limited beings transcend our finite dimensions? How do we relate to the abstract, to the infinite, to the spiritual? So let's approach this question through the lens of Sfiras HaOmer, the counting of the Omer. We're commanded to count the days between Pesach and Shavuos, a period known as Sfiras HaOmer. And at first glance, this can be understood on a very simple level. As we approach Shavuos, we excitedly count down to Matan Torah, as we anticipate our acceptance of the Torah. And this can be compared to a countdown towards a wedding, a vacation, or some other exciting event. However, there's a feature of the Sfiras HaOmer count that's markedly different. Rather than counting down towards the destination, Shavuos, we count up from the starting point, Pesach. We don't mark how many days remain until Shavuos, we count how many days have elapsed since Pesach. So what's the meaning behind this strange method of counting? And more generally, what's the purpose of counting in the first place? By no other holidays do we count the days between them. We don't count the days between Sukkot and Hanukkah, so why do we specifically count the days between Pesach and Shavuos? In truth, though, we're not counting down to Matan Torah. We're building towards it, ascending one day at a time. We don't wait for Shavuos to arrive. We actively bring it ourselves through the time and effort we invest as we count the Omer. If Shavuos and its accompanying Matan Torah are a skyscraper, then each day of the Omer is a brick, and each day we place the next brick in our building. Each day we build ourselves one step higher. The extensive halachic emphasis on counting each and every day of the Omer highlights the fact that every single brick is essential. Every single day is fundamental. If while building a staircase you miss one step, you can't simply build the next step up, because each step requires a foundation to rest on. The same is true of counting the Omer. Each day builds upon the previous ones, ascending towards our ultimate destination. Matan Torah doesn't come after 49 days. It comes because of them, built by our effort and investment during Sfiras HaOmer. And that's why we count up. We're not counting down to Matan Torah, we're building up towards it one day at a time. And this elucidation of Sfiras HaOmer sheds light on the Ramban's enigmatic approach to the counting of the Omer. He maintains that women are obligated to count the Omer because it's not a mitzvahs aseh shehazman grama. It's not a time-bound commandment. So how are we to understand this? Sfiras HaOmer, the counting of each specific day between Pesach and Shavuos, seems to be the epitome of a time-bound mitzvah. However, a deeper understanding of Sfiras HaOmer clarifies the Ramban's opinion. In general, a time-bound mitzvah is an opportunity to tap into a certain power of time that exists at that moment. On Pesach, when we eat matzah, we tap into the power of freedom, a pre-existing reality. And the same principle applies to all time-bound mitzvahs. But for Sfiras HaOmer, we don't tap into a pre-existing time, we create time. When we count the Omer, we don't tap into the reality of the Omer, we create it. Time doesn't create the Omer, we do, and that's why there's no specific date mentioned for Shavuos in the Torah. Because Shavuos and Matan Torah aren't tied to a specific day, the 6th of Sivan. It's the result of the 49 days that we count. The 50th day, the day of Shavuos and Matan Torah, emerges from the 49 days of counting. We bring it into existence. And that's why the holiday of Shavuos literally means weeks. The 7 weeks that we count create the holiday of Shavuos. And after developing a general understanding of Sfiras Omer, let's now focus on a few specifics of the count itself. While we likely take it for granted that the Omer is 49 days long, the Torah explicitly commands us, Tisbru Chamishim Yom, you should count 50 days. So why do we only count 49 days, omitting the 50th day completely? And this seems to be in direct contradiction to the Torah's command. Additionally, we seem to skip the first day of the counting, only beginning the count on the second day of Pesach. So what's the meaning behind this? Well, the Arizal, Ramchal, Vilna Gaon, and many other Jewish thinkers explain the deep meaning behind the 49-day process of Siyar, which is based on a principle we've developed in the past. Every process contains 3 stages. The first stage is the high, a spark of inspiration, an experience of perfection and clarity. However, this first stage is fleeting, and it's immediately followed by a dramatic fall, a complete loss of everything experienced in the first stage. The second stage is a process of rebuilding what was originally experienced, working and building towards perfection. And then there's a third stage, a return to the original perfection of the first stage. However, this third stage is fundamentally different from the first, because while it's the same perfection, the same clarity, this time it's a perfection and clarity that you've earned. The first time it was given to you as a gift, but now you've worked to build it for yourself. The first night of Pesach was a gift. It was an experience of infinite transcendence. This night was characterized by the miracles of Makas Bechoros, which was performed by Hashem himself in Yetzias Mitzrayim, as well as the mitzvos of Karban Pesach and Bris Milah, mitzvos which connected the Jewish people to a higher dimension of existence. However, immediately following this night was a complete fall from this exalted level of transcendence. The Jewish people faced 49 days in the desert, a place of spiritual emptiness. It was during these 49 days of counting, of building, that the Jewish people were able to rebuild and earn that initial transcendent gift. And what resulted from those 49 days of building was Shavuos, Matan Torah, an experience of transcendence, of infinity of the world to come. And this is why the Karban Omer is a sacrifice of barley, a food described by Chazal, the sages, as animal fodder. The Shavuos sacrifice is Shtei Halachem, a sacrifice of bread made of wheat, a food characterized by Chazal as human food. And prior to the process of Sfiras Omer, we were on a low spiritual level, the level of animals. After spending the 49 days of the Omer counting and building ourselves, we rise to a transcendent spiritual level, tapping into our true nature as Tzelem Elokim, now worthy and ready to experience Matan Torah. And perhaps this is why there were 2 loaves of bread, one representing the original gift on the first night of Pesach, and the second representing what we earned after 49 days of building. You see, we don't count the first night of Pesach because this night is a gift of inspiration. It's intangible and unearned. We can't pin a number down to it because it's fleeting, it's elusive. Sfiras Omer is a process of building, and the building process only begins on the second day of Pesach once the gift has been taken away. It's at this point that we start the work of truly earning it. And just like the teenager in the introductory story, we all struggle to connect with the infinite, to see the spiritual within the physical, to find genuine meaning and purpose in an often turbulent and chaotic world. It can feel overwhelming, if impossible, to build a skyscraper. The task is quite daunting. However, the key is to have the ultimate goal in the back of our minds while we focus on each individual day, trying our best to place each individual brick perfectly while we build towards our ultimate destination. Each day of the Omer is a new brick, a new part of our journey towards Matan Torah, towards the infinite, towards marrying Hashem. So may we be inspired to create something magical as we build towards Matan Torah, one day at a time.